Hello and welcome in. Prattville Live is going through a process of developing some more, hopefully entertaining shows that we can share with the world, not just the river region, but our guest today is Duwan Walker. Duwan is an old football player, not that old, but an old football player, but more importantly, a coach. In his last life, he's got a new life that we're going to talk about. But, Duwan, I just want to kind of let the viewers familiarize themselves with you. Tell us about your childhood and where you played ball in high school.
Yeah, really excited to be here. Thank you for having me today. And, it's a small place called Cairo, Georgia. Cairo, Georgia, in South Georgia. And it sits just north of the Georgia-Florida line, just north of Tallahassee, about 45 minutes north of Tallahassee. So I grew up a Knoll and a FAMU Rattler. So just from and I did have a little dog in me, a little bulldog. But, grew up in Cairo in a single-parent home, young as a 5. And,
wow.
So I'm a big baby today, But just had a God-fearing mom that did a great job pointing to us. My oldest sister, she was 27 years old when she passed.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I was a freshman at Troy State University. And
which is what it was when I went to school down there for a year or two.
Exactly. So Troy State, I went to Troy in 92, and she passed December of 92. And but I do have all of my siblings all went military. I was the only one that went to college, the first on both sides, mother and father side. Went to Troy. I walked on at Troy State, and eventually earned a scholarship.
Who was the coach down there at that time?
Coach Blakeney. Blakeney.
Yeah.
Coach Larry Blakeney. This was his second year at Troy, and in his second year. He actually came by the school. I was headed to the military. And a few college coaches came by the school and kind of looked at me, and I was real. I mean, you're talking about 150 pounds ago. I was really small. And my junior year, we won the state championship, went undefeated.
In Cairo.
And my senior year, we didn't have a lot returning. But I went from free safety down to Mike linebacker at about 150 pounds wet. And had to play the likes of the Mike Bobos, Robert Toomers, and those type guys. But so they when those colleges came in, they looked at me as a linebacker where I clearly was not a linebacker. I was a defensive back. So I had to go and walk on at Troy as a defensive back and earned a full scholarship.
Okay, from Troy to Bill Clark as coach of the UAB Blazer football program. So you transitioned from playing in college to a coaching career. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, I graduated from Troy, and I was really, I worked out for a few NFL teams to try to make that dream of going to the next level and playing. And I was injured. It wasn't happening. Clearly, God said, you're going in a different direction. So I tried just tried to be employed. Let's see what I could do, give back to society.
You wanted a job.
I wanted a job. And it was time to make some money. So, and I did that. And I went back to Cairo and entered the education field, and it was then where I had a crossroads. About 4 different opportunities came in all at once, and the best one for me at that time was Coach Blakeney calling me and saying, "Listen, I want you to come and be a graduate assistant. Get your degree, work on your master's, but we want you to come back and be a grad." So I did that. I took Coach up on it, and man, what a blast! I was a graduate assistant to Tracy Rocker. And Coach Wayne Bolt was the defense coordinator.
That had to be some fun.
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
You didn't make Tracy Rocker mad at any point, did you?
Oh, wait, I was the one that kept him calm down. It was you had Ron Middleton. We had a coaching staff that was second to none. We really had some really good. I learned a lot of football from those.
Coach Blakeney and Coach Blakeney, oddly enough, coached against me when I was in high school.
Is that
A little
right?
Small school over in West Alabama. But he had a pretty uncanny ability of attracting pretty darn good people around him.
He was really good. Coaches, I mean, the things that he poured into us then, we all still take today. And I'm talking about a lot of us. A lot of the things he said, in and out of practice, on and off the field. I mean, my first lesson was my first team meeting at Troy. The team meeting started at a certain time. And, I was in there sitting down about mid-row, and all of a sudden you heard the door slam, boom. And after the door, the whole room was quiet. It's my first college meeting. And about that time, you heard some guys knock on the door. And Coach Blakeney said, "Don't open the door.
They're late. They ain't coming in."
They're not coming in. It was my first opportunity to learn a lesson about time, making sure you're where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there. And if you showed up on time, you're late. So it was all about getting there early, making sure. And I mean, it was to the point where he was going to, some of these guys may be on scholarship, and you never. A lot of people sign a scholarship thinking that it's a done deal, but it is a year-to-year contract. That's the unknown about it.
And I want to talk about scholarships, the transfer portal, NIL. We'll talk about all that. But
Definitely.
Back to you evolving from an assistant at Troy to Bill Clark's staff.
Yeah,
in
so
Birmingham.
as during that tenure, me and Coach Clark was at Dothan. He was the defense coordinator down at Dothan High School, and he ended up, he would come up and sit into some of our defensive meetings and all that kind of good stuff. Well, we both were taking some graduate courses together, and it was one day when he pulled me to the side and said, "Listen, Prattville has offered me the job. If you come with me, I'm taking that job." And I'm like, "Coach, I don't know if you're going to take the job because I'm not coming." But long story short, he's such a recruiter. But the thing that really stood out for me, he said, look, he told me his vision. He said, "I want to take a few young men and I want to go lead some few godly men, and I want to go lead some young men." And I'm like, wow. I mean, I was really intrigued with that. That was, who I am, and that really, I'm always thinking about the ministry and making decisions in light of eternity. And when he told me that, I'm like, wow, now that is attractive. So long story short, we come to Prattville in '99, and I'm talking about late. We probably got to Prattville a month before the first game. I remember going into that first team meeting, and we probably got maybe about 21 kids in there. And 4 of those kids were kickers.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, we're sitting here looking at, is this baseball or are we coaching football? But he assured me at that time, Prattville was probably about the 4th biggest school in the state. I mean, they were in the top 5. And he said, "No, the kids are here. They're in the halls. We got to go get them.
Get them out of the bleachers."
That's exactly right. So yeah, that's how we started in Prattville, and was here 9 years, and the rest is history.
Well, you went with him to UAB, and you go from playing in college to coaching in high school or coaching some in college as an assistant, then coaching in high school, then back to the college level, and this time on a larger scale than, say, a Troy, but at the same time not a powerhouse football program, and yet Coach Clark had an amazing record at UAB.
Yeah, Coach he's gifted. When I say gifted, he has gifts that can. Horace Powell told me one time, and the late Horace.
If Horace said it, it had to be true.
But listen, he told me, he said, "Look, it's just something about that Bill Clark." He said, the more he talked to you, the more you just start bringing money out your pocket. So he understood, and Coach just had a gift. Coach C, the late Coach C, he was one of the 4 coaches that Coach brought in. When I say 4 coaches, it was Coach C, myself, and Robert Leslie was the 3 coaches he brought in on that initial staff. And but Coach C would always say that he said Bill got some of his mama in him. He know how to really deal with all people. And Coach did a really good job of meeting every level of person he met.
All right, Duwan, we're in a crazy world, a crazy time. Everything's going nuts around the world. And it's kind of crazy in athletics with the transfer portal being as wide open as it is now. And obviously Coach Saban, who just retired, used that as a pretty good excuse to hang it up. But also the NIL money. And nobody seems to have an answer to how to fix that, how to control it, how to make it equal to all the players and schools around the country. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, it's crazy, just like you said. It's crazy. And a year ago, I was over in Charlotte, and I ran into Will Muschamp, and Will was, I mean, he said, DeJuan, this is the craziest thing. I said, I mean, tell me, how are you guys handling NIL and all the things? He said, it has definitely changed football. And he used the term, the toothpaste is out of the tube. He said, it's late, and we can't fix that part. And then he gave me a story. He said, hey, I had a guy, and we're on the practice field. They were in the middle of spring. He said, I had one of my linebackers turn around and say, Coach, you know, what about my NIL? This guy y'all signing are going to make more than I am. He ain't even made it to the football field. He said, we can hardly practice. So obviously we have a huge situation. And I think I think what has happened is before any barriers were drawn, you know, they pretty much started the race. And now it's you know, there's no regulations around it to make sure anything in competition, you got to have boundaries.
Well, I don't want to inject my personal philosophy on this, but, you know, for years I've been a big college fan. I would attend a big stadium with a lot of folks cheering War Eagle. And I would sit there and think, wow, there are 100,000 people, excuse me, who probably spent a couple of $1,000s to be here. And there are kids on that field on national TV that can't afford to buy a pair of tennis shoes. There's something wrong with this.
Right.
And before anything formalized, all of a sudden the NIL surfaced, and now it's out of control. So is there a chance it gets reeled back in the near future?
Yeah, yeah. It could be corralled, you know, but it needs to happen quick. It's almost, you know, like a leak. If you let a leak go long enough, you're going to have a really bad problem. And right now, I think we're just seeing the beginning of it. So unless it's, you know, it needs to be corralled quickly, and that's through legislation. And because, you know, if you don't have legislation or any kind of regulations, anything will be chaotic, especially in competition.
Well, and the NCAA has got to take a lead. You know, I mean, they're the elephant in the room in terms of college athletics. Okay, let's talk about the latest chapter in your life. Because of kids, because of your association with it at all levels, playing as a kid all the way through coaching in college, kids are the future.
Exactly.
And I firmly believe, again, I don't want to inject my personal philosophy, but we tend to blame the younger generation for things they're not really responsible for. And I know you agree with that, and that's why you became involved in the current chapter of your life, High Ed. Tell us what that is and how everything is working out.
Exactly. I appreciate that. High Ed is hyper-individualized education design. And what it is designed to do is transition students into careers. You know, early on when we developed this software, it was surrounded by student athletes, and I say that because I had the opportunity to be a player in high school, had the opportunity to be a coach in high school, a player in college, and a coach in college, and in the process of recruiting and really looking at all the different areas for a student athlete from their career in high school to transition into college or to into whatever they go into, it's a lot of gaps.
So for a simple-minded guy like me, best way I can understand this, it's software that's been developed to basically keep score for the kids, to track their education in I guess now in junior high school, down in the
exactly
in the 8th grade years. Is that right?
Yeah, sixth grade.
Sixth grade.
Okay,
Okay,
sixth grade.
So higher elementary school all the way through their high school days, and it's not. It originally, I think, in your mind was set up for athletes,
right?
But it's not just for athletes.
Not just for athletes. That's right. It's for every student. And it has a little something for everybody, and we also have different access, from the student and parent access to teacher access to admin access, all the way to the central office, to where now we can target recruit, if you will, to those students that may need a little bit extra, and we color code that to make it simple for the end user. So now we know exactly where to give attention and to give some momentum and access to a single parent. Let's say, for instance, grandmothers. Grandmothers have really stood in a gap for a long time, and single parents of really, helping that student transition into whatever that dream may be. And it was really developed for that end user, so it can be user friendly, where grandma may not know exactly the ins and outs, but grandma knows her colors. If you're red, we know you need help.
So to, simplify this for the folks who may be watching and don't really understand it, this is a software product that's not very expensive, that the school systems, public and private, can purchase.
Exactly.
And it helps kids to first and foremost establish a goal, which is pretty important.
Right.
And then it also develops a career path, or helps them develop their own career path.
Correct.
Whether it be a technical training environment, education, or a academic.
That's exactly right. Students have to choose a track, and it allows them to choose a track of, hey, when I graduate, I'm going to college, or I'm going to the military, or I'm going directly to the workforce. And what we do, we recruit the third party to make sure they have those opportunities. So those colleges, when they come to that school, they would know the students that have chosen that college before they even started recruiting them. Same thing for military. I may want to go to the Navy or the Army or the National Guard. They know exactly, even down to the 9th grader, that have chosen them before they even started the process.
And it's affordable. I'm a taxpayer, so I'm worried about where my money is spent, as most Americans should be. A few bucks a kid is all it costs. It's not very expensive.
That's exactly right. It's depending on the number of students, and it's on a scale. The more students, obviously, the less it is, and the more years of a contract, the less it is. But at the end of the day, it's more. And this is what we're seeing. We're having more meetings now with mayors and economic developers,
workforce
development people, to now, those companies. We have partners that's have like Buffalo Rocks and the Lear Corporations, Baptist Health. All those people partner to make sure we have a smooth transition for those students that's interested, and to sign a contract prior to graduation.
So students become job seekers, whether they're on the road to the professional world of athletics, or whether they're on the road to a technical job at a car plant, auto plant. But then it also marries up the job providers, the employers who are looking for those job seekers.
Exactly right. And that's the thing for let's say, for instance, if I'm a student, I want to go to college, It will also show you the admissions requirements for the different colleges and let you know where you are on that hierarchy as far as transitioning to those, and the minimum academic scholarships and what's available at those colleges. And this is 4-year and 2-year colleges.
HiEd.com. How do folks look you up?
HIEDGMS.com. HiEdGMS.com. Now, GMS is a guidance management system. We're the very first guidance management system for students to transition into careers.
All right, we're going to wrap up. I've enjoyed it. This is great. We're going to do some more of these. We're going to try to twist your arm and get you involved in some of our coverage for high school in the fall. But as we close, I want to ask you one question, and you've got to be honest with me. Have you ever been in Bill Clark's doghouse?
I stay in Bill Clark's doghouse. Let me tell you, hey, I'd have made a room in Bill Clark's doghouse. But let me tell you, coaches, we're like brothers. I mean, he can start a sentence and I'll finish it, or I can start to finish. Listen, Coach would be in the shower, coming out the shower. He'll call me, hey, listen, this is what I thought about. But it's coaches. I mean, you got to love the guy. I'm going to tell you, he's different in his own way. That the guy is greatness, and you don't see a lot of these guys. But he is.
I was sorry to see him retire, but he had health issues. He had some pain in his back.
Well, I'll say this. We those guys, the Bill Clarks, the Coach Sabins, those guys we need around the game. And they do so much, and we talked about this prior, but they do so much to help develop our leaders for tomorrow. And they pour so much into coaches, and that's why you see their trees branch so good. I mean, they have branches everywhere to where the guys that have been under them are proven guys that have just used that same process to develop their teams and their communities.
Duwan, it's been a pleasure. We're going to reach out to Coach Bill Clark, see if we can't get you and him in here to do one of these little chit chats one day to tell some funny stories.
We need to. We got a lot on each other.
Thanks, Duwan Walker.
Thank you, sir.